when we work on legislation here in this chambers, it is about facts, and sometimes it's about emotions, but HCR2060 is about facts. And it's about facts because we've seen this legislation before. And as much as some of my colleagues refuse to accept the fact that SB 1070 had devastating consequences on our families, it is the truth. That is what happened 14 years ago, and it was by legislation that was passed out of these chambers. So yes, there's going to be emotion involved in this legislation and when we're discussing it, but there's also facts. And the fact is that our communities were under racial discrimination. They faced separations. And we know that because there has been millions of dollars in court costs around that legislation. I pride myself in being a very emotional person, and I fight very hard for the things that I believe in. And I'm going to continue to do that. And that's exactly why we have to push back on harmful legislation like this. This isn't something that can be addressed by the governor's veto. We're talking about sending language that is not ready to the voters to vote on. And I actually disagree with my colleague. This is not being asked by all of the citizens in Arizona. And I know that because I'm getting emails and I'm getting phone calls and I'm getting texts. And we have a gallery full of community advocates that are opposed to this. We have business groups. We have education groups. We have veterans groups. We have politicians. We have every single group that has stood and opposed this measure. We should be clear with the voters of Arizona that this measure is solely for political reasons. That is what we're talking about, and we have to be honest with them about that. You know, one of the biggest issues, it should be to nobody's surprise that policing and law enforcement is so near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to always speak on that issue. And the reality is that the language in this bill has further enhances the immunity that law enforcement sees. The language has protections for law enforcement for any civil suit brought against them for any racial profiling. So if anybody feels that their rights have been violated, they have no recourse, because if they submit a lawsuit, it's going to be dismissed on the basis of immunity. Their case will be thrown out. What will that person that faces racial discrimination, what legal recourse will they have? The citizens of Arizona are smart, and they're going to see through the harmful wording and language in this legislation, and they will vote it down in the ballot. And I'm going to say it again because I said it when we saw SB 1231. You're underestimating the will of the voters and how the younger generation is going to mobilize and activate and show up and start changing things. And I, for one, will be there to support them every step of the way. The fact that as a body we're going to move to pass this out of this chamber is shameful. We should be here doing our job to help the families of Arizona, not to divide them and not to create a path where they will be separated. With that, I vote no.